Incident analysis right here at the Voice of College Football on Championship Saturday. We've got Steve Helwick live from New Orleans, where SMU has won the American Conference Championship in their final year in the conference, defeating Tulane 26-14. You can join Steve Helwick at SB Nation's Underdog Dynasty and Hustle Belt as well. Steve, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing excellent. We had quite an AAC championship game here where SMU pulled off the upset without its starting quarterback, Preston Stone, 26-14. What a statement for the Mustangs. This is the team they've been ever since AAC play started this year. They didn't trail in the second half of a single AAC game this year. That continued tonight in their 26-14 win over Tulane. And to be honest with you, it was a lot more of a domination than the scoreboard suggested. First play of the game, Tulane strip sacks SMU, gets the ball down at the 1 yard line. That gives Tulane a 7-0 lead 10 seconds into the game. SMU dominates the rest of the game. They had 3 first half turnovers, so they were down in the turnover battle. 2 of those prevented scoring opportunities. And really, SMU won by 12, but it could have been a lot more with the way they played tonight. They executed on both ends. And we've always known SMU as an offensive school. They haven't ranked above 75th in scoring defense since 2012. But this year's SMU was a complete team effort offensively and defensively, ranked 4th in the nation in scoring offense going into today, 13th in scoring defense. Both of those units looked excellent, especially the defense. And free safety Isaiah Wacobia, first defensive MVP in the AAC championship game history, solidifies SMU's season as a defensively improved team.
Steve, as you mentioned, SMU played so well, and this game seemed like it was 7-7 forever. And SMU at one point, I was tracking the yardage, was up like 230-44 at one point. And how would you evaluate the play of Kevin Jennings? The backup quarterback goes 19 of 33 for 203 yards with a touchdown and 2 picks.
I would actually evaluate it as pretty good considering the 2 picks because he didn't get rattled. A lot of first-time starting quarterbacks, especially against a stout Tulane front, would probably get rattled when you commit a turnover on the first play of the game, you fumble, you're down 7-0 already. But the thing is, Kevin Jennings kept pushing the ball down the field. SMU, on their scoring drive that went up 14-7, he converted a 3rd and 8, another 3rd and 8, and then a 3rd and 10 for that touchdown pass to Keyshawn Smith. So Kevin Jennings played such a poised game, I thought, as a quarterback. And I'm looking at the stat sheet right here, finished with 203 yards, 19 of 33. I thought he did a pretty good job, and he extended plays, too, with his legs as a runner with 63 net rushing yards, 76 if you exclude sacks. And SMU had 3 first-team All-AAC offensive linemen and another that also got All-AAC designation, so that's 80% of the line right there. They did a really good job providing him clean pockets and giving their quarterback the best chance to thrive in his first career start. And I thought Kevin Jennings played a pretty good game today.
Yes, 193 yards rushing for SMU with Jalen Knighton, the Miami transfer, chipping in with 75 to lead the team. On the flip side, the SMU rush defense, Mekhi Hughes only had 44 yards on 11 carries. They held, and of course, we've got sack yardage included in this, but 31 yards, 1.2 yards per carry for Tulane. So obviously, SMU's front was extremely stout.
Yes, Tulane never got a 10-yard carry in this game. And Willie Fritz teams, Tulane teams, what they like to do is they like to run the ball. We saw this a lot with Tyjae Spears. And even they have Michael Pratt, who was named the AAC Offensive Player of the Year this year as quarterback. Pratt never had a 300-yard game this year. Tulane likes to run the ball. They like to run the ball, control clock. They were top 15, I think, in time of possession this year. And they like to eat that up. And SMU's run defense didn't let them. They really made them one-dimensional tonight. And then it was on Michael Pratt to do so much through the air. But Tulane's offensive line also got dominated up front, just like they did in the run game, in the pass game, because they allowed 7 sacks, and SMU was just getting everything they wanted at the line of scrimmage today. Line of scrimmage won this game for the Mustangs, and that really showed because Tulane could not pick up anything on the ground all game, and that really did it for the Green Wave offense. They scored one true full drive scoring drive, not just touchdown, the whole game. That fake tush push 42-yard pass in early third quarter.
Yeah, Michael Pratt, with the big touchdown pass there. He also had a rushing touchdown. So he, Bo Nix, and Jaden Daniels top the college football ledger in terms of games with a rushing and passing touchdown. Now, when you look at SMU's resume with the American Conference Championship at 11-2 versus what Liberty brings to the table at 13-0, what is your thought about what the selection is going to be for a New Year's Six bid?
I just came back from the post-game press conference, and Rhett Lashley spoke pretty passionately about that. I'll have some of his quotes in my story later on this one. But I think Lashley does make a lot of good points, with Liberty ranking 133rd out of 133 teams in strength of schedule, playing in a Conference USA, which had 2 FCS newcomers this year. This year's CUSA was the teams that weren't invited into another section of realignment this year. And I'm not taking anything away from this Liberty team. This Liberty team was great. They had I love the pseudo triple option offense that Jamie Chadwell ran at Coastal Carolina that he's brought there to Liberty. And they dominate most of the opponents this year. They were a goal line stand away from losing to Sam Houston. And I think they had one other game against Middle Tennessee that was kind of back and forth throughout before they eventually pulled ahead. So they did a pretty good job against their schedule, but that's the problem, is the schedule. I think that SMU this year, I don't think you can penalize SMU for scheduling Oklahoma and TCU. They lost both of those games, and they lost both by 17. The Oklahoma game was 14-11 with under 10 minutes remaining. The TCU game, that was when TCU was playing its best football. They started 3-1 back when Chandler Morris was still healthy, and that game was within 10 with under 90 seconds to go. So I don't think SMU played as poorly as the final score looks in that game. But SMU dominated the AAC competition to an average score before entering today of 47-16. And that includes a win on the road at 9-3 Memphis team, a Memphis team that beat the Mountain West champion in Boise State, a Memphis team that came within 7 points of Mizzou, and their only other losses were 4 points to SMU and 10 to Tulane. And then they go on the road today and they beat a top 25 Tulane team that's only slip up all year was against Ole Miss without Michael Pratt. This SMU team goes in with a backup quarterback nonetheless, makes a ton of mistakes, and still comes out with a 12-point victory. I feel like it should be SMU. I don't know if the committee is going to make that decision because Liberty's currently ranked higher. I don't know. And Tulane's only 2 spots above Liberty. Is SMU going to completely get into the poll and jump Liberty? I don't think that happens. But Rhett Lashley said, what kind of message are you sending in the 12-team playoff going forward if you have a team that's not going to schedule any power conference teams, finish 133rd in strength of schedule, and just go undefeated? So I just don't think that you can penalize SMU for what they did in non-conference play when they dominated AAC competition to the manner they did. They beat Memphis and Tulane, which are the best 2 wins between Liberty and SMU. And they just had such a great AAC championship game showing against a ranked team.
2-part question to close this out, Steve. One would be, considering how good Tulane's been, and of course going back to last season and winning the Cotton Bowl, they have been the expected New Year's Six bid this entire season, the only group of 5 that's consistently been ranked. So part A, are you surprised at the dominance of SMU today? And part 2, you've covered a ton of American Conference football down through the years in the past decade, and obviously with the defections of Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati. What would you think about this American Conference and the strength of this conference today versus what it's been?
The strength of the conference today, I would say this is a conference with 4 juggernauts, and the rest wasn't as good as usual. The middle of this conference was not as good as usual this year, bringing in the new 6 USA transplants and losing UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston. But the top of the conference was pretty strong, I thought, all year. I mentioned some of the resumes earlier. Tulane's only loss was an Ole Miss game that was tied 17-17 going into the 4th quarter, and Tulane didn't even have their starting quarterback, Michael Pratt. Memphis goes on the road. Actually, it was a neutral site game in St. Louis. Only a 7-point loss to a Mizzou team that's likely bound for a New Year's Six. They beat the Mountain West champion Boise State earlier in the season, too. And then you have UTSA and SMU, which round out the 4 juggernauts of the conference. None of those 4 teams lost to anyone in the conference except for themselves. So I thought it was a very top-heavy league this year, but I didn't think that the bottom was as strong as usual and the middle wasn't as strong as usual. Their only other bowl-eligible teams are Rice and South Florida. Now, those teams look worse because the time you play Memphis, UTSA, SMU, and Tulane, those 4 teams had such separation on the rest of the league. that it produced lopsided results oftentimes. I said SMU didn't trail in the second half of an AAC game this year. In the regular season, the only time Tulane trailed in the second half of an AAC game was against Memphis. And UTSA, before the final week of the season, every single AAC win they had was by at least 14 points. So it was a dominant for the top 4 teams in this conference.
Steve Helwick, SB Nation, Underdog Dynasty, and Hustle Belt. Please join him right there. Does great work, knows his stuff. So please join Steve there, joining us live from Tulane after SMU's victory in the American Conference Championship. Steve, thank you so much for stopping by. We appreciate it. Safe travels.
Thanks, appreciate it. Ready to catch the rest of the games.
So, yes, we will find out over the course of the next few hours with the Big Ten Championship game, of course, in Florida State and Louisville in the ACC Championship game. Join us live here tonight after the Big Ten Championship, after the ACC Championship games with complete coverage. Give me a call as we do our weekend wrap-up call-in show, as always, right here at the Voice of College Football. Just wanted to check in on the American Conference Championship. It will be interesting once we get those playoff bids if the committee and the bowl selection goes with SMU, despite the 2 losses to TCU and Oklahoma, at 11-2, or the Liberty Flames at 13-0, with the worst strength of schedule in all of college football. Appreciate you all being here. We will see you in just a couple hours after the Big Ten and the ACC.